Hello, welcome back. I'm David Bianco. If this is your first time, thanks for joining me. So today, August 26th, is a big day for me because it's the day I met my wife 36 years ago. And as it relates to the vinyl community, we had a really great interview going on today from Michael Ludwig, who is known as 45 RPM Audiophile out of Germany. He had Bernie Grundman, the mastering engineer, on, along with Ryan K. Smith, an up-and-coming mastering engineer with Sterling Sound. And we had Chad Kassem, who is the owner-operator of Analogue Productions / Acoustic Sounds / QRP Pressings out of Salina, Kansas. By the way, I am going there on Tuesday of this week, beginning a tour, and hope to spend a little bit of time to talk to Chad as well. And we'll share with you what I can when I get back. Or live, never know. But I want to share with you today some things I learned because of what I saw in this interview and some things that might be interesting to you. That's coming up next on The Sound of Safe and Sound, Texas. You know, I'm a pretty big believer that when things don't go right and something happens that's really problematic, there often are good things that do come out of that regardless of the situation. And I think that's true of what's happened with the MOFIgate, DSD gate, whatever you want to call it, situation. And that is, there's a lot more information coming out. There's interviews being done with some of these classic mastering engineers like we saw today. People like Chad from Acoustic Sounds, who's been out there, but he's even more out there. Joe Horner, all these folks have come out and, really been a beacon, I would say, to the VC. And I think that is juxtaposed to the other party who is not and has not been and had to have a forced situation for that to even happen. And I think that it's a ray of light that we need because, of course, the news we've been going through hasn't exactly been a positive experience, and it's put a lot of doubt and concern in our minds. So I really appreciate Michael, 45 RPM Audiophile out of Germany, putting these together. There have been other folks that have done interviews with some of these people as well. Steve Westman on the Audiophiles channel out of Vancouver. Thanks, Steve, for what you're doing as well. And I think this is really hopefully a sign of the future. We were talking about that today in the chat after the interviews. Ryan K. Smith is in there from Sterling in Nashville. Younger guy's only been doing it 10, 12 years, working with Ted Jensen and some of the guys who have been around a while. And Bernie was talking about people he's bringing up. So we need to keep that moving. And we see these young folks here on the actual Rachel's Ghost, these younger gents that are talking a lot about their vinyl, a lot about jazz, a lot about music, and they're really well endowed with knowledge. And it's really great to see for someone like myself to see that torch getting passed. But really the main thrust of this is to say, hey, subscribe to Rachel's Ghost. It's a great channel. I wanted to make sure I gave her a plug because she was very, very kind to me. But, in the interview today, I wanted to just extrapolate a few things. It was very long. But Bernie Grundman, I really learned a lot of things that he's very technical, of course, but he also really said some things I think that they follow along what I believe and I've said. But, when I hear him saying it and he's actually doing the work he's doing, you realize it makes the most sense. He said when it comes to sound and music, your ears are the only thing that are going to tell you the truth. And that's true because he was talking about spectrographic analyzers and specs and all these things that people do. And at the end of the day, it's how does it sound to me? That's all that really matters at the end of the day, right? These amps that they have, why is it amps with same specs can sound different? Well, music coming through it changes things. We don't really have a way to deal with it because music, he said, it's a complex signal. There's no way to measure it really except by your own ears. So that's the only way, really. So it is so critical to get that baseline down because someone kind of expects, I think, these guys to have all the magical answers, or an amp manufacturer or a speaker manufacturer, to make the silver bullet that's out there, the magic bullet, and it doesn't really exist, you know? And so the mastering engineers, he was saying, we got to make the music accessible to the listener so that it, you know, they then communicate to the listener exactly what the artist wanted to be heard. And he talked about a few times where maybe that didn't happen as well as the artist would have liked. They talked about people requesting things to be really mixed hot or mixed loud, and you know, and then brought into the mastering process to be loud as well, and really how that degrades really the quality. But they're, you know, the customer there to them is looking for something else. So their world is, you know, it's a business too, exactly, and the appreciation for vinyl, I think, is really part of the core here, because cutting is such an intricate type of thing. It takes a lot of detail, and Bernie was reminding us of the discs. You know, they're primitive. It's, you know, back to Edison. You know, they're mechanical. It's following this complex signal in the groove with that stylus. You know, and then he literally made the comment, the louder you make it, the bigger obstacle course there is for the stylus to go through. And that's true. And then he said, if it's too soft, it gets down near the noise floor of the vinyl. And then you start hearing the raw vinyl as opposed to the music. So, you know, these are some of the idiosyncrasies that, you know, exist in making a record, and that these are the things that have to be dealt with and overcome. So understand that, you know, that's part of the process, and that they really have all of these variables, you know, to consider when they're delivering it. Obviously, there was a discussion about the DSD factor, and, you know, the fact of where is their loss. You know, there's got to be some kind of loss, some kind of change. You know, and Bernie believes pretty strongly that, you know, mathematically, some things do happen, and the sampling rates aren't as high as they need to be when it gets into those upper frequencies. And the more you convert back and forth, and if you have to make edits and go to PCM, then you're doing another step from DSD to PCM to then get it edited, to bring it back to analog, to get it to the cutter. So, you know, these are all intermediate steps that need to happen if you choose to do it that way. And of course, one might argue you can add value with that, or you can bring things in, but the question is what do you want in? What do you not want natural? What do you not want the way it is? So this will be a debate, obviously, for the ages, and that's fine. And I mean, you know, Chad brought up the fact that, you know, and this was a great thing to really quantify from history of music, and that is this thing about promo copies, of people getting promo copies, like Michael Fremer is saying, well, these guys are reviewers, and, you know, stores, reviewers, they're promoting. They actually, that's part of their job, is to take that and to bring it to the public, warts and all, potentially, depending on what they see or hear. And ironically, no sooner they're talking about that, I get a pop-up that says Michael Fremer's got a video comes out and says the things of MOFIs that I will not review. And so later I looked at it, and he listed some things and some issues he had with some of those, and that's fine. I mean, you know, he chose not to review a lot of their stuff, frankly, if you look at the catalog. And so he was trying to tell people, hey, you know, here's what you have. Here's what the differences are. You know, if you search out this pressing, you might do better. I did the exact same thing recently when I did the Hall & Oates Rock and Soul Part 1, and I did the Cars self-titled first album, the comparisons of the OGs to the MOFIs. And, you know, I found that I had a little more satisfaction with the OGs from what I heard. Now, I did have a person that mentioned that they thought that the MOFI Hall & Oates was better than the Robert Ludwig mastered version of Hall & Oates. Fine. I mean, this will always happen, and that's fine. And kudos to that person, you know, for saying it. I was, you know, to me, I just want to make sure, did they have the RL master disc version, because there are other pressings. He said, yeah, I checked, and he even sent a picture of it and showed it. So, you know, that happens. And so, you know, these things and these comparisons that come up, I think, you know, some people are going to say, yeah, you're just trying to badmouth MOFI or whatever. I think people are stepping back and just kind of evaluating evaluating, saying, hey, where have I been? And Michael said, I did not review a lot of these anyway. And in some cases, I think the implications are clear. He didn't, because he didn't feel he would have as much good to say about it. So why bother? He said before, the smiley face kind of EQ, and kind of that's what, in general, that's what he was finding. But all of this is creating a lot more transparency at the end of the day. And I guess to me, that really is the discussions that need to be happening. And that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with doing that at all. And so I believe this process is one that we're going to go through growing pains on in the industry. I really did get a lot out of the fact that these gentlemen interacted so much, and Chad, of course, is very proud of the work he's doing at Acoustic Sounds, and I'm very anxious to get there Tuesday and see their facilities and to check on some of the processes they do and look at them from a manufacturing perspective. I had a video, I'll put a link up here to a video I had and in the description where I talk about Acoustic Sounds, what I saw through their video of their facilities, and what I felt about their processes. And I'm going to kind of cross-validate that by being there in person myself. And if I said anything wrong or incorrect, I'll correct it, of course. I think it's very important that we be transparent about all of these things as we go through the process. I have some questions I want to ask, and hopefully I'll get some time to be able to do that. And I will also be looking at the fact that, hey, these guys there are doing yeoman's work for processes. They've got a plant, and they've got a company that is doing the sales, of course, and then they've got the Analogue Productions piece of the process as well. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to that trip and to meeting those folks, because you talk about made in the USA. I mean, that's made in the USA. That's hard work, ingenuity, passion, and I think passion is a key element in any business, in any process that you do. When I was in IT, I always had to fight the fact that people wanted to outsource our data center. And they had outsourced just a little piece of it for some certain things that we did with IBM. And I knew, as a guy running the IT department in the data center, whenever we had an issue with that system, when we would call them, they would kind of be, okay, you're what company and what system? And they're looking in this room at all these systems, and they're trying to figure out which one's yours that needs a restart or a reboot or what, and you lose time, you lose patience, and you don't control the process. And I think, Chad recognizes the value in that all the way to packaging. I mean, good gosh, everybody lauds the packaging. And he said, we got a problem. We got to fix it. We got to come up with a solution for this. And I think that is what it takes in order to be able to be successful and to show that you've listened to the customers. As I mentioned in the video I did about them, they could have tried different packaging on the market and sent it out there and see how it went. And then, the customer ends up being the one to validate it. Well, that takes time and effort. And if it doesn't work out right, it's not a great situation. It's kind of like they're your guinea pigs. So, using a packaging engineer, looking at what the problems are and the causes and how to buffer that through the process and through the materials is exactly what needed to happen. So to me, that's just plain old common sense. You don't need a PhD to figure that out. You need passion. And for me, there's people that have PhDs in passion. And Chad is one of them. There's others in the industry. Bernie Grundman has it. Ryan does. All these guys that do all that kind of work. I mean, they really, the guys who do the mixing, the engineers. I mean, there was a talk on the second Rachel's Ghost about that, giving those guys some credit and maybe doing some interviews. And I'm going to search out a few engineers that I have dealt with in terms of the product that they've output to see if they will be open to talking. But I will tell you that the mixing engineers, a lot of them, obviously the younger ones, are mainly using digital. That's what they know and they feel comfortable with. And I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to work with. There's no doubt. and you can get through a lot of things faster. You have a lot more tools at your fingertips, but there are compromises, of course. And even some of the old line engineers, like Frank Filippetti, he did a lot of great Broadway musicals. He did a lot of rock. He did Carly Simon's Coming Around Again album, which is the reason I'm trying to get in touch with him, because looking at getting it pressed through Speaker's Corner, because from what I understand, it was in fact one that Ted Jensen from Sterling said he thought, yeah, it was analog tape that they used on that, and not digital. But he said you really need to check with Frank. So my point is, Frank's saying now, hey, I'm done with analog. I cut my teeth. I did all that. I paid those dues. Everything I do is digital. I use plugins. I do whatever. So, I mean, this is a shrinking pool of people who really are harnessing that technology of the older way of doing it and holding on to that. So I think we need to understand that's if you go to frankfilippetti.com, FILLI PETTI, I think it is, or maybe there's one L at the beginning, frankfilippetti.com. He has a digital to analog discussion in there, and I'll link it here as well. And I think, it's really interesting to listen to the logic. But again, Bernie's a purist, and God bless him. We need those in the world. And that's what this is about. This is the niche of the community that we're in. But as time goes on, it's going to be tougher and tougher to maintain it, of course. But it's worth it. I think that the value of that is being seen in the market. And at the end of the day, we know that what's happened with MOFI, has just exacerbated the visibility of that fact. And it's unfortunate, because I think MOFI should have understood, the value of that and the intensity of that and the market for that, because it's always been there. And, it goes back to the old saying, you had no trouble collecting the checks. And then all of a sudden, the chickens came home to roost. And, that's unfortunate, but that is, in fact, where the rubber meets the road. And I think that's a difference that I'm sure I will see in spades when I visit Analogue Productions. So stay tuned for that. It'll be coming this week. I may try to do a few live feeds, depending on how it works from there. You never know what your signal is, so I won't make any promises, but I definitely will be picking up some video, and hopefully can talk to Chad a bit as well. But I definitely will give you my impressions at a minimum from that visit, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I appreciate the support on this channel. I've got over 1,000 subscribers. I've hit over 70,000 views and 5,000 watch hours since I started in March, and it's all thanks to you all. I do hope to grow the channel, and your excitement about certain things and engaging me has helped me bring to myself to the point where, yeah, I really do want to do things like interview people and go visit sites like this and really get engaged more and do all I can to bring to you a better understanding about vinyl and about the best way that you can enjoy this hobby that's so important to us, because it's so genuine. Art is really something, because you think about it, you're capturing a moment in art. A recording is done and it's mastered and it's brought to us, to our ears, and that will stay the same in the majority of context. It will always be there, like a painting, and it's there for the ages. Look at the decades that the Beatles and some of these other groups have been predominant and still there, and that's such a strong thing. Think of the memories. The thing I think of are memories. When I hear a song sometime, I'm like, wow, I remember exactly where I was when I bought that record, or when I got that record, or when I was in high school and on my graduation day on June 1st, 1975, we went to go see Chicago and the Beach Boys at Chicago Stadium. I think they had 6 or 7 nights sold out. Saw them 2 different nights. These are the things that just come to you because it's music, and that is the beauty of it. So again, if you would subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and press that bell to get notifications, I'd appreciate it. Anytime you like the video, a thumbs up is appreciated as well. Comments, I do read, and I do give you some replies in most cases. And even if they're ones I don't agree with, I'm not going to take you down for it. So again, I thank you for watching and look forward to seeing you next time on The Sound of Safe and Sound Texas. Take care, everybody.